there's a rose bush called Paul, and that's why I'm called Paul. I was born in 1959 and I lived in Severn Road all of my early years in my mum's house, which she bought in 1956. And in the garden there was always this rose bush which she loved and tended, and it lived, and it still lives now. And when she died in 2017, Tanya and I brought the rosebush back to our house now, and it thrives really well in our garden, and we call it Paul. And it's nice because Mum said it was named after someone she knew. And tonight we found a letter from Paul to my mum, and it's hark back to the old days of proper letter writing and proper words and love and emotion. And the letter evoked something which is wonderful to see all these years later, because you don't realise that older people have this life and they have these emotional contacts with people. And she clearly evoked something in this chap called Paul. There was no relationship, it was just love from a distance. And Mum married my dad, had me and Mark, but it's something special to see that she was thought so highly of by someone I've never met, I never knew, I don't know who he is. And it's something which sort of transcends normal life. It goes beyond what you know and what you see. Mum and Dad, for me, were in love, and they had me and Mark. But Mum was clearly a really interesting person. I've put loads of posts on about Mum, loads of videos. And she said she was proposed to 7 times in her life to me, which now doesn't surprise me, because I think, oh, she was quite vibrant, she was a pretty lady, and she had a brain, and she could talk, and she had ambition to do things, just make something of her life. From a terrible upbringing, she achieved something, and she achieved happiness, and she seemed fulfilled. But this letter is amazing, mostly because it was so beautifully written, and my mum had to step away from that because she'd met my dad by this time. And in those days there was no texting or no WhatsApp or that usual stuff, but people wrote letters in a way that meant something. And I never met Paul, never knew who he was, but the rose bush that I'm named after is now in our garden, thriving. And it's a beautiful thing to read and see how someone can feel about someone else and put it in words. It's a throwback to a really great golden age.